Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. New neighbors keep using our pool without permission. Should I call the cops on them? After that, am I the jerk for not wanting to exclude my wife and kids from a trip? And after that, am I the jerk for telling my daughter that I can't compete with her stepmom, and if she can't cope with it, she should live there full time? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to use her neighbor's pool. Oh, I'll use it all right. Been holding it all day. You? So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. New neighbors keep using our pool without permission. Should I call the cops on them? I'm 32, female. My wife and I finally bought our own home instead of renting. It took a lot of work, but we did it, and it's a home we both love and plan to spend the rest of our lives in. It even has a pool, which is just amazing and something I'd always wanted but never thought I'd have. The issue is our next door neighbors. I keep finding their kids using our pool, having hopped our fence, and I keep getting them to leave. I've spoken to their parents about this issue, and they've told me that the elderly couple we bought the house from would let them use the pool in exchange for cleaning it, so they're just used to being able to use it. I told them that was fine when it was the last neighbor, but it's something my wife and I are not comfortable with as we don't know them well enough. Plus, if they were to get hurt, we'd feel awful about it. They insist that nobody would get hurt and asked if it would be okay if they used it whenever we weren't using it, as they're just kids, and spoke about how it's getting hotter now. I was getting annoyed at this point and told them they should get their own pool then, and I'd already told them we weren't comfortable with this. Ever since then, I've had to chase them away a couple more times, and their parents are constantly sending me dirty looks whenever they see me. I've since posted a sign stating it's a private pool and can only be used with permission. Am I really being unfair here? Yes, it sucks that they had an arrangement with the last owners, but it's our pool now. Not the jerk. You know those parents would sue you into the next century if someone got hurt in your pool. You need to have your pool totally fenced off with a locking gate. I would also report the kids to the police as trespassing, if only to put the parents on notice. OP should tell the neighbors that next time they will call the cops. And if they don't take the warning seriously, actually call the cops. OP has already put signs up and everything, and the law is on OP's side. You are wrong. The law is not on OP's side. A pool is an attractive nuisance, and regardless of signs, fence, etc., OP is liable. I had all this stuff, fence, alarm, etc., and lost a lawsuit when a known neighborhood nuisance hopped the fence, was drunk, and ended up passing. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let them use your pool or not? Please let us know. Absolutely not. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Am I the jerk for not wanting to exclude my wife and kids from a trip? I, 28 male, have 5 kids with my wife, who's 32. Please don't come after us for how many kids we have. I work roughly 50 hours a week, 10-hour days Monday through Friday, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She does the majority of everything, cleaning, cooking, everything minus the shopping, which my wife orders online and I pick up at the store. So here's the am I the jerk scenario. My work schedules a work bonding fishing trip from Friday night to Sunday over the summer. I say no way I'm going for the following reasons, despite my wife telling me to go and have fun. First of all, every Saturday I schedule my wife for some type of treat yourself appointment and send her on a mini shopping spree / kiddo-free morning to do whatever she wants with one rule: the kids stay at home. It's about her and her only. Second, I'm not leaving my wife for 2 nights and a day for fishing and drinking. If I want to go fishing, I'll take the 5-year-old twins with me to give my wife less to juggle and create some memories. Third, the ladies that work at the office feel excluded because they don't like fishing. Fourth, they call it a stag weekend despite no one getting married, and I don't trust that phrasing, especially since they're going fishing near a very popular college-age vacation spot known for the bars and the wasted weekend shenanigans. So my coworkers have been calling me whipped since I said no, and saying it'll give them a chance to know me better since I don't go out with them on Wednesday when they go to the bar and have always missed the trip. All my coworkers all have wives, kids, or significant others, so I recommended we do a family camp out during the planning meeting, which would cost the same amount, and do those blow-up things on the lake, boating if you have one, skis, etc., and do a cookout kind of deal with family activities with my work renting small cabins for families to use. My regional manager, who was at the meeting, loved it even more than the fishing trip, gave me a yearly bonus to plan this family event every year instead of my coworker who gets one to plan the fishing trip. Now my coworkers are calling me whipped and more stupid names, And they're mad because their wives are happy about my idea. Their wives have even emailed me about a mom Saturday morning idea, like my wife has, and I added it into the plan, and are mad that their stag weekend is canceled and, quote, spend a work-paid trip babysitting. So Reddit, am I the jerk for getting a work trip canceled and replaced with a family-friendly event? Edit for clarity. I also included the child-free coworkers of mine in the planning and said if they need a break or are getting overwhelmed, they're more than welcome to borrow my boat for relaxing without the kids or for more extreme water sports. It's not babysitting if it's your own kids. You're being considerate to your wife, and it sounds like you're a good husband. You're not the jerk. Yeah, how dare OP want to not exclude his wife, coworkers' wives, and the kids to go on a stag weekend where you know questionable things will happen, and instead make it a fun experience for everyone instead of letting the guys run off to do who knows what for a weekend and leave their wives and kids at home. It sounds like a lot of fun, and the guys are the ones with the problem, thinking spending time with their own kids is babysitting. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. You came up with an idea that would benefit everyone and not leave anyone out. I find it weird that a workplace would even have such an exclusive fishing trip to begin with. I'd bet the women have been trying to get the trip changed for years, but no one would listen to them. It definitely sounds like they felt left out. If the fishing trip is that important to them, they can still go and pay for it themselves. Literally nothing is stopping them from doing so. The fact that they see having to spend a weekend with their kids as babysitting tells me all I need to know about them. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for getting the trip changed or not? Please let us know. OP sounds delightful. He also sounds like you'll have quite a few enemies at the office from now on. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that I can't compete with her stepmom, and if she can't cope with it, she should live there full time? 15 years ago, I, 19 at the time, dated this guy, Mark, who was 25. I got pregnant after a few months with him. I wasn't ready for a kid, so I gave Mark full custody of our daughter, Natalie, who's now 14, and I'd visit a couple of times a year. Mark is from a good family and already had a great job when we first met. He quickly climbed up the ladder and was able to give Natalie a very privileged life. When Natalie was 2, he met Amy, and they got married when Natalie was 4. Natalie and Amy have always been very close, and Amy is very much involved in her life. She's room mom, head of the PTA. She was the soccer coach, the softball coach, head of the theater guild, and found a way to be part of everything Natalie was involved in. She also drives Natalie to school early in the mornings so they could stop for breakfast first, and she packs Natalie's lunch every day, and not something like peanut butter and jelly in a bag of chips. She makes Natalie steak or quiche or lettuce wraps with a side of salad with homemade dressing, fresh fruit, and homemade dessert. Natalie doesn't understand that the only reason Amy is able to do all of this is because she doesn't work and she doesn't have to do much around the house. They have a cleaning service come multiple times a week. I recently got an apartment close to Mark and Amy's house, and I have Natalie 1 week out of the month now. It was pretty hard for both of us at first. Natalie had a hard time understanding that we're not stopping for breakfast before school, and the best thing she's going to get from me for lunch is a turkey sandwich, cookie from the grocery store I work at, a bag of chips, and an apple. She was also not used to the fact that she has to clean up after herself. Natalie was here last week, and we were already not getting along because she had an event at school that week that she told Amy about and not me, because she refused to clean her room, and because I found out she's been throwing away the lunches I make for her and asking Amy to bring her lunch since she started staying with me. She had a sore throat on Wednesday, and I let her stay home from school, then started to get ready to leave for work. When I was about to leave, she made a comment that Amy always stays home with her when she doesn't feel well. I said it's a sore throat and she'll be fine, but she got an attitude and said that I should try to be a good mom like Amy. We ended up arguing, and I told her that I can't compete with Amy, and that if she can't handle that, she needs to go back to her dad's house. So she called Amy to pick her up, and I haven't heard from her since. I was supposed to take her out for dinner this Saturday, but now she doesn't want to go, so I wanted to know if I was the jerk. You're the jerk. Your daughter may have your DNA, but you aren't her mother. She's been through a dramatic change when you stepped back into her life. Because of that, your expectations for this relationship aren't realistic. She's 14, and you literally abandoned her at birth. You have a golden opportunity to get to know the young woman she's becoming, but you've turned this situation into a competition between you and her mother. You cannot blame her at all for not wanting to spend time with you. I don't understand how OP turned it into a competition. Given the example provided in the post, what was she supposed to do? Miss work to stay home with Amy and lose money and day off for a non-emergency? Just because her stepmother doesn't work and could actually stay with Amy in such a situation because she A. is not employed, B. doesn't rely on the money from work. There was a no-win for OP there. The kid literally demands stuff OP can't provide, like breakfast at cafes, because she cannot afford it on a single income, presumably. Your comment contains no actual advice of what she was supposed to do, apart from generic do better. Edit. Just to clarify, there are different issues here. OP is not the jerk for the situation described in the post, and that's what I refer to in this comment. However, she appears to be the jerk for forcefully inserting herself into the life of this teenager by fighting Natalie's parents in court for custody, instead of simply agreeing to visitation rights. All this presumably in response to Amy wanting to adopt. Not the jerk. I think you need a full stop and try to imagine how you'd feel if you were your daughter. She's been given a very nice life by her father and stepmom. You were rarely in the picture, and that's when it suited you. Now you decided to become a mom, and you think this human whom you birthed should be so happy to have you in her life. I wouldn't. I'd be upset if I had to leave the comfort of my home to go stay with a stranger for a week every month, simply because she decides to move close enough that it's convenient for her. You've uprooted her. You're not helping her to adapt. You expect her to be happy you're around, and you're mad because she isn't. You pull her away from her comfort for an entire week and take her to a place that's clearly less than she's accustomed to, and you're mad because she's not happy? She's 14. 14-year-olds aren't happy anyway, and you're giving her way more reasons to be unhappy. From here, all I see is a teenage daughter that wants to connect more with you and is constantly being met with, "I'm not willing to try. Go get your needs met elsewhere." Then she does, by asking Amy to bring her lunch, and you also get angry. She was not feeling well and needed someone to take care of her. She asked you, as another way to connect, and you dismissed her once again. She doesn't want you to compete with Amy. She wants her mother to make her feel like she is a priority. Most people just can't take time off of work that easily. And let's be honest, a 14-year-old with a sore throat can stay home alone. My 11-year-old stays home alone when she's not feeling well. Honestly, the kid sounds very spoiled and privileged. Going out to breakfast every morning, getting fancy lunches, that's great, but she's old enough to understand that not everyone can afford that. OP and kids should consider therapy together to talk about this stuff with an unbiased party. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know. This plot would have made for such a good movie back in the 90s. Am I the jerk for publicly calling out my fiance at our party after he made a dig at my previous homelessness? Going to go straight to it. Last Sunday, I organized a small barbecue party with my work friends, my fiance's family, as well as other acquaintances to celebrate my promotion at work. I know it might come off as arrogant to celebrate a promotion, but the reason why I held it was because this was one of the first times in my life I felt settled and at peace. I was homeless for a while and had to work really hard and rely on my one kind relative who supported me to get to where I am. The party was also held to express my gratitude towards my uncle and my friends who helped me push through. However, not everything went smoothly. My fiance was introducing me to some of his friends and colleagues after we set up the food. He kept introducing me to them in a condescending way, saying that the promotion didn't really mean a huge pay raise and his salary is still higher than mine, even though he started work much earlier than me, and that the only reason I made it was because of my relative. That is somewhat true. But the thing that struck me the most was him saying jokingly to his friends that he played a huge role in where I am today, even though I literally met him after I landed my job, and that my homelessness was not a big deal because I only spent 6 months being homeless before my relative helped. It just felt humiliating and invalidating, so I also jokingly retorted back, saying, "At least I'm not a trust fund baby who was handed everything in life and had his parents pay part of his mortgage." His colleagues laughed at that, and I could see my fiance was not pleased. He stopped mocking me after, thank goodness. But after everyone left, he mentioned that what I said really ruined his image. I told him I was merely imitating his actions because he could clearly see I was uncomfortable and carried on, and then he denied it and proceeded to call me sensitive. Now I'm confused. I know what I did was wrong. I was not behaving or communicating like an adult. And yes, I shouldn't have divulged the fact that his parents paid part of the down payment, but I was hurt and had no way to pull myself out mid-convo without embarrassing myself. That's why I require judgment. If I am the jerk, I'm willing to apologize. Why is this not your ex-fiance? Not the jerk. You ruined his image? What about how he ruined yours? He's not always like this. In fact, the very reason we got together was because he admired my grit, and then for him to turn around and do this, quite disappointed. I wouldn't say my image is ruined or something, because my friends and uncle don't care about all that. But yeah, towards his friends, it made me feel small and stupid. He admired your grit for as long as he feels you were not a threat to his ego, for as long as you remained beneath him. This is a party to celebrate your achievement, but he chose to highlight that you didn't get to where you are via your own hard work, that you had to be helped by others, thereby undermining your success. Also, the fact that he was saying that it doesn't mean anything because OP's salary is not higher than his? Big red flag. Not the jerk. You say he admired your grit and isn't normally like this. Well, you were never at risk of upstaging him before. You were never a risk to his ego before. He admired you when he considered himself better than you. He then, instead of apologizing for his behavior, knuckled down and called you sensitive. This is downright disgusting. You're sensitive because you voiced how he embarrassed you? You're sensitive because you told him that you were uncomfortable? He then denies his treatment of you being bad and denies knowing how you felt about the situation. I'm sorry. Who goes around telling others about their partner's homelessness and how they wouldn't be anywhere without XYZ handout, then try and claim that their partner is only where they are today because of them, when they did nothing? And I'm sorry, was his parents paying part of his mortgage some big secret? He just wants to look better in the eyes of his coworkers and will trample on anyone to do so, it seems. You should be proud of your accomplishments. If he does not come and apologize to you for this, then boot him to the curb. Welcome to your future of him embarrassing you as you threaten his fragile ego. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her fiance? Please let us know. I'd run from him faster than Usain Bolt. I went out with people who didn't tip, and I feel horrible. My boyfriend's mom and I were celebrating our birthday, April 30th and April 28th, at a seafood restaurant with my boyfriend's sister and my boyfriend. The service was cool, it wasn't slow, and the waitress wasn't rude or anything. When it was time to pay, me and my boyfriend's bill was about $68. I put in $70 and was going to add $5, thinking everyone, 4 of us, was also going to add a similar amount. My boyfriend took the $5 and said that the leftover change was enough. That change was like $1 and some cents. I tried to explain to him that that wasn't enough, thinking that his mom would speak up, but his mom and his sister both said that they weren't leaving a tip because the waitress, husband/family, owned the place and they had money. Imagine my horror when I heard that. She gave us good service, kept our drinks refilled, and y'all just aren't gonna tip? Then when his sister paid, her leftover change was like $3, and the waitress didn't give her the change back, and the sister literally waited for her to speak to her so she could give it back. I went to the bathroom so they could leave so I could give a bigger tip, but when I came out, I didn't see the waitress and everyone was in the car waiting. I feel so bad. I can't believe they just refused. I went to a restaurant with my mom and my family the following day, and my mom paid for 3 meals and I left a $10 tip for us 3, and still my mom left a few extra dollars. Your values are different. This should key you in. I feel like this comes up on other subreddits all the time. The question, what's a red flag or a deal breaker on a first date? And I always think, being rude to a server. I haven't served in over 10 years, and I don't think I could be with someone who was a bad tipper. Think of how many times over the course of the relationship the issue will keep coming up. That's just a fundamental incompatibility. You are 100% on point. I've always totally judged a person and how they treat a server. It shows how they will be to someone in a lesser position of power, which is a good insight into character. We have a pretty high-powered lawyer who comes into our joint a couple times a week. Dude bills at $1,450 an hour and treats the cashier, or the guy doing street sweeping, or me, the owner, the same at all times. And one of my favorite tricks when meeting new people who ask what I do is to tell them lots of dishwashing and hauling trash and see how they respond. It is very telling. Insist on ordering food despite having the wrong number? Fine by me. This happened when I still lived with my parents over 20 years ago in a small town just outside a small city. As a teenager with a bit of social anxiety, I would spend most Friday and Saturday nights at home watching movies, playing Legos or computer games. Often, my parents would go out in the city as there was nothing to do in the town, so I would be home alone until late at night. Our landline phone number was very similar to that of a local Chinese takeaway and taxi company. I won't give the exact numbers, but to give an idea, our number was 12222, the Chinese takeaway was 12221, and the taxi firm was 122122. So on a Friday/Saturday night, drunken state, it was very easy to misdial. 99% of the callers would apologize once they advised they had the wrong number, and I would even be able to tell them the correct number to dial. The 1%, however, the instance that I recall and fits this sub goes as follows. Me. Hello? Caller. Hi, I'd like to order 1 sweet and sour, 1 chow mein. Me interrupting. I'm sorry, this is the wrong number. Caller. No, this is the Chinese food place. Me. I'm sorry, it really isn't. You need to call 12. Caller interrupts me. Yes, it is, so take my order now. Quite rude and forcefully. Me. Fine, what do you want? Caller gives me his order. Me. Okay, are you collecting or you want this delivered? Delivered, and quickly. Me. Okay, it'll be about 30 minutes. I hang up. 45 minutes later, the phone rings. I answer, and there's one hungry customer on the phone. Me. I'm sorry, you didn't leave your address for the delivery, and 1471 didn't work. UK readers will know this, but it's basically a service to call back your last received caller. So we waited for you to call back. Food will be another 30 minutes. I ask for the address and hang up. 45 minutes later, another hungry call received. Only this time, they were a little drunker and ruder. I fess up that I've been stringing them along, but they insisted that I was the Chinese takeaway and ordered me to take their order again. Unfortunately, at this point, the restaurant was now closed, so I guess they went to bed without their food. They never called back, so hopefully they learned a lesson. Am I the jerk for feeding rabbit stew to my friends? My friends and I, mid-30s, like to have themed dinner parties. For example, we've had Spanish potlucks, bought miracle fruit, the stuff that makes sour foods taste sweet, and tried a bunch of things to see what they tasted like with the sour made sweet. A friend did a Star Trek menu with plomeek soup, squash and beetroot soup, jambalaya, and cellular peptide cake, peppermint cake. Another friend did a The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe menu with toast a la tumnus, fried fish and boiled potatoes, and Turkish delight, stuff like that. I recently decided to host a Lord of the Rings meal and emailed the invitation and menu to my friends. Lembas, crispy flatbread with homemade jams and mustards, meat pies, vegetarian savory pies, potato and mushroom, rabbit stew, intdraut, light spring vegetable soup, salad and foraged greens, berry tarts, beer, sweet cider, and milk, served buffet style. I invited about a dozen adults and their kids, some friends of mine, some friends of friends, or partners of friends, about 20 people total. Everything was going very well until one of the guests asked what the meat was in the rabbit stew. I thought she was joking at first, but she was completely serious. So I said, well, it's rabbit. I live in an area where we have an abundance of deer, rabbit, game birds, etc., so then hunting them is encouraged because otherwise they tend to starve in the winter for lack of sufficient food and or of disease due to overpopulation. I have a hunter friend who trades me meat from these animals for the jams and jellies I make. She freaked out and her daughter started crying and then told the other kids that they were eating bunnies. Apparently, they thought that by rabbit stew, I meant something like what I meant by lembas, that I was using a fantasy term for something more normal. And I guess I can sort of see it, because while they're different, cooked rabbit isn't that different than dark meat poultry in a stew. I apologized for the miscommunication and for upsetting her and her daughter, but she was still livid and said that I was the jerk for serving rabbit under any circumstances. I again apologized for not being clearer that I really did indeed mean rabbits in the rabbit stew, but I wouldn't apologize for serving rabbit, especially as it was, in my opinion, more sustainably and humanely obtained than if I had bought a 12-pack of chicken thighs. She and a few other people think I'm the jerk. Obviously, mostly people with kids were upset by the cooked a bunny thing, though until it was framed to them that way, they seemed fine. Others think that I'm not exactly a jerk, but that I should have spelled out better in the invitation and menu that the rabbit stew was really rabbit, and or for not just apologizing for serving rabbit in the first place. So, am I the jerk for serving rabbit? What kind of idiots hear rabbit stew and assume that rabbit isn't in there? I wonder if they know chicken soup has chicken in it. Not the jerk, and this is coming from a rabbit owner. I recently had to explain to a C-level executive in my company that lamb was in fact made from baby sheep. He hasn't been able to eat lamb since, and I feel not a moment of guilt. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the guests? Please let us know. And this is part of why you don't invite too many people you don't know to your house. You're bound to get some idiots in there. Am I the jerk for refusing to sell my car and embarrassing my boyfriend in front of his dad? So, before I was with my boyfriend, I was with my ex. He was very wealthy, and despite the relationship not working out, he did give me a lot of gifts throughout it, and he bought me a car for our 4th anniversary and paid off in my name. We broke up right at the beginning of the lockdown, and I met my current boyfriend 10 months ago, and we've been official for 3 months now. I'm not one to speak about exes, and he never asked any questions, so I never told him how I got my car. He did compliment it, but that's about it. My boyfriend's father is a mechanic, and yesterday I was over at my boyfriend's apartment. His dad had to drop something off, and he commented about my car, saying it was the best in the parking lot, and he liked the color and rims, not knowing it's mine. We laughed about it, and his dad was asking me a ton of questions about it and how much I pay a month, and I told him it's paid off and a gift. My boyfriend was surprised and said he assumed I was paying it off and asked by who, and I said my ex. He got quiet, and it was really awkward for a bit where no one said anything. His dad broke the ice by saying it's a great gift since I don't have to worry about paying it off, and the conversation continued with him wanting to drive it around the parking lot and see inside, which I let him. When he left, my boyfriend started going off on me, saying he can't believe I never said anything and that I just embarrassed him in front of his dad. I said how, and he said he can't believe me and that I need to sell it since it doesn't fit my lifestyle anyway, and that he thought it was a dumb decision I made, not that it was a romantic gift. I said that it's not romantic and that to my ex it meant nothing, and he even got more mad. His dad came back and gave me my keys and left, and then my boyfriend asked me to leave too, even though we had plans to go out. He's been distant since. Did I really embarrass him? And am I the jerk? Not the jerk. And in my opinion, that's a red flag from your current boyfriend, telling you that you need to sell it? Bruh. OP. He's saying I need to sell it because it's an embarrassing conversation to have if anyone asks me about it and how much I paid, and that he doesn't feel comfortable driving it anymore. So it would be an inconvenience when we move in together to only take his car or drive separately. I told him he's overreacting, and he's saying I'm being the jerk, not him, and that if I sell it, I could downgrade to another paid-off car that's cheaper, and I could have money left over, and I'm dumb and irrational. Your boyfriend is definitely being the irrational one here. Plus, it's no one's business how you paid for your car, and generally it's not a topic that would come up in conversation. I have a nicer car that I got because my dad passed. Not once has anyone who didn't know that ever asked me how much I paid for it. Your boyfriend is making up scenarios that aren't very common. When someone asks an intrusive question, just reply, "Why do you ask that?" You know they're thinking, how could she afford that car, or something along those lines. Even her so-called boyfriend just assumed she made a dumb decision and was making payments on a way too expensive car. Am I the jerk for ditching the date and leaving my partner stood up? I'm 27, female, an attorney, dating a 33-year-old male programmer. He's constantly late for things and has always had problems with keeping track of time. There have been times when we have made plans for a date and he would just go missing in action for hours, only to respond after he was already late. Given how hectic my work schedule is, I try really hard to set time for him on the weekends, and he is often, 1, full-on not responded when asked about plans, 2, has left me waiting alone in restaurants for at least an hour each time. I know he has mental health issues and has struggled with going out to meet people, so I try to be more patient and forgiving, but sometimes I do still end up blowing up at him when he's late. This time it was our anniversary. I found the place, booked way in advance, and got there on time. I texted him asking, "Hey, are you on your way?" And he left me on red. After waiting 1 hour, I basically texted him that I was incredibly upset that he's doing this again. I left, and he eventually told me he got there 1.45 hours after we planned to meet. He then called me saying that he was really sorry, please come back, and that he was really trying. I lost my temper and yelled at him that he didn't care about my time. He always leaves me waiting like a dog for hours when it suits him, and that the least he could do was at least warn me when he was going to be late. He said that I didn't respect him for trying, / his mental health, and how difficult it was for him to even meet me. He admitted that sometimes, once he's late, he even procrastinates more because he doesn't want to deal with the consequences of it. I admit that I am a stickler for time. Time is very important to me, and now with work, it literally means I can't do other things because I just spend so much time waiting for him. I'm so upset because it just feels like irresponsibility. Am I the jerk for expecting him to be on time, or at least tell me if he's going to be late? I'm a programmer. I have mental health issues. I don't enjoy being around strangers. I still have the respect required to tell my partner if I'm running late and to make sure that it is a very rare occurrence. Disrespecting you like that, and then blaming it on mental health, means that he needs to focus on improving his mental health. Until he does, I suggest maybe you shouldn't subject yourself to this. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. When someone constantly shows up late, it shows that you're not a priority to them. Don't date people like that. You'll only regret it. My wife is demanding to name our son Frodo. My wife and I are expecting our firstborn together. We haven't discussed names until we found out the gender. It's a boy, and when the family found out, we received many name suggestions and ideas from both families. Some were pretty cool and modern boy names. However, when I asked my wife when we were going to discuss the name of our son and talk about the cool ideas our families sent, she told me not to bother because she's already had a name in mind and felt strongly about it. I was upset, obviously, since she said she already decided, so that was selfish in my opinion. I asked what the name was, and she told me Frodo. The name immediately rang a bell. My wife is a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, and her favorite character is Frodo. She went on about how cool and unique the name is, but I really didn't think she was being serious. She said I should watch the movie and see how the name sounds and I'd love it. I said no way. She asked why not. The movie is popular and so is the name. To me, that's the problem. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a name we should go with. I mean, I already looked up the name and its meaning, but was mentioned that it will always be attached to that character from Lord of the Rings. To me, that was an instant no. My wife said I was being narrow-minded and called me controlling only because I told her this name is my hill to die on. Our son deserves a reasonable name and not to be attached to a character from a movie. I snapped and told her she could love the character all she wants, but choosing a name for our son is a serious matter and we both should get a say. She had a meltdown, gets mad, and claims I'm treating her as an incubator. She then went to tell my parents about how unreasonable I was being, and they got mad only because we haven't considered the name suggestions they sent. So now I find myself arguing with my wife and my family. Her sister told me that my wife gets 80% say since she's the mother, and I needed to stop stressing her out like that. My brother suggested I stop arguing with my wife about it and go behind her back and put the name I want on the birth certificate, but I wouldn't do that. That's not going to solve anything. The argument continues, and I think I might be the jerk for still arguing about it, knowing that my wife is stressed out, but I just don't think it's fair. Am I the jerk here? Am I overreacting? Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.